What I want to change is I want people to stop trapping animals. And so what I can do is convince people that they don't wear fur and it'll kill the demand. Kind of like the drug trade. So the United States goes into foreign countries to try and get the source of drugs. And the reason there's a source of drugs is because we have a huge appetite for drugs. And so some people would say is if Americans didn't want to use all those drugs, then we wouldn't have to go into Colombia and cut down all those forests and arrest people and kill them. So just in terms of where we go to look for the source of the problem or the solution sometimes is interesting. In this case, we had an innovation that fixed one part of the problem, but then it creates some other problems with it. Okay. Is there another one over there? I just got either the front or the back. Let's talk about your homework just a little bit. So you were to try and identify, these are people that are producers at a farmer's market, and you're trying to identify what category they go into. And one thing to be careful of is it's not the product that they're producing that's innovative, but it's themselves. Okay? So from that list, who did you identify as innovators? Can you what? You want to? Did you remember, or looking at those, can you figure out who the innovators were? Brian? And anyone that you think was an innovator? Agle's buffalo? Why did you think he was an innovator?
Because he saw, after Walmart began carrying attention, he started to realize that I could sell my herd and raise my own buffalo and market my own meat instead of going to Walmart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The New World Veggies.
Virginia. She teaches biology and horticulture. She grows pumpkins and gourds. She's open to new production. She reads some trade publications, takes students to Europe. Anybody else? Who? She's ambitious. She designs on putting goat cheese and goat fajitas on the menu of every Mexican restaurant in town. She travels widely. She's an active member of the Democratic Party. Dan the Tomato Man's her uncle. Anybody else?
I'd say the twins.
The twins that have the manure business?
Yeah, they're trying to generate ethanol.
Is it because manure was kind of innovative that you thought that?
No, I was thinking because they used it for a different purpose.
Okay. Innovators are not well respected. They tend to form cliques with other innovators. We tend to think them as kind of kooky.
Would that not be the guy
Who? Preston's Heritage Pork. He has a PhD in English literature. He rents 320 acres and raises Berkshire hogs out in the woods. He's trying to write the American novel. Other merchants see him as a nut job and tolerate him for his long hair and aversion to bathing. He is an innovator. Preston is an innovator.
I have a question. Is your homework split up where it's like 2% innovators, like the follow the pie chart?
Not exactly.
Okay.
Because otherwise you'd say there's probably only one innovator, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple more. And I don't care what you did on the homework. It's important that you understand why it is. Okay? But there are two other innovators. And you haven't mentioned them. Yes, the All-American rejects cheese. Lloyd left graduate school once. Now, highly educated, that helps. Fellow merchants see him as an idealist graduate student who dropped out and has poor taste in music. Okay, so people don't think much of innovators. Okay? They're the ones that are brewing kombucha tea in their closets. Okay? Until kombucha tea got really valuable. There's one more.
Would it be Crazy Gloria?
Crazy Gloria is also an innovator. Crazy Gloria is also an innovator. She's president of the International Buff Orpington Association. She's related to some other people, but okay. Do you see how they're different? Okay, let's go to the other extreme. Who are the laggards? You think Carl is a laggard? Yes, Carl. Yes, Carl is a laggard. Carl Sweetcorn. Carl is a laggard. He lives with his mother on small.
Where is that one?
Carl Sweetcorn with the K's. He's 59 years old. Doesn't really matter. He's 59. He could be 29.
And Earl.
And Earl. Earl's 5 Point Market. Earl is also a laggard. Susie? Ted's dried mushrooms. Ted is also a laggard. There's one more.
Is it,
No.
it's not, is it the New World Veggies girl? No, not her, sorry.
Isn't it gross?
No, Smelly Flowers and stuff, Ursula, because she patterned her sisters and she's not the first one to brag it.
She's not the first.
She could be a late majority though.
Yeah. She's a late majority. Who?
The Dottie Tomatoes and Peppers.
Dan the Tomato Man? No, but Dan's a late majority, so you're close.
Is it Ralph?
It's Ralph. It's Ralph's Moonshine of Vegetables. He's the other laggard.
Oh, I thought we were doing
Okay, so we identified Dan the Doty's Tomato Peppers. We got Earl. Faye's Goat Cheese. What do you think Faye is?
Really adopter.
She's early adopter. So some of you thought maybe she's an innovator, so you're close. She's an early adopter. Gloria, we said, is an innovator. Union Road Vegetables. Harry he's held every office in the Market Association. He's contributing author to the grant proposal, so he's very well respected. He's either early adopter, early majority. I have him as early majority, but I could see where you'd say he might be early adopter. Ike with Tumbleweed Beef.
Is he a late majority?
He's a late majority, as is Joe Bob with Ingalls Buffalo. And so here's what the hard part is to not look at what they're producing, but what they're like other than that. We said Carl was a laggard. We said that Lloyd was an innovator. And Max with Elastic Foods is, I have him as an early adopter. Early adopter. Okay. Naomi with 1 day at a time flowers. She relies on her neighbors and family for advice on her business. Late majority, so it puts her back. Olivia and Frazzled Mom's Dairy Products. Have her as early majority. We have Preston as an innovator. The twins, Quentin and Quincy, who have their manure business, and there actually were twins in Stillwater that had a manure business. They sold in feed sacks. They would sell bags of manure for $5, dried, and did a great business. They're not innovators. They're not laggards. I have them as early majority. Ralph we identify as a laggard. Sarah with Just Peachy Fruit and Nuts. I have her as early majority. We said Ted's a laggard. Ursula's Smelly Flowers.
Early majority.
I've got her at late majority. New World Vegetables, early majority. Warren's No Spit Melons, early majority. And No Whining Blackberries as early adopter. It doesn't matter if what you selected and the one I have is next to it, you're like, I'm pretty close. But you need to be able to identify innovators and laggards, what they look like. And then after that, there's some debate about where someone might be based on the description. Okay. Now, of what value is this to anybody? Of what value is it to know that someone's an innovator or a laggard, an early adopter, an early majority, or a late majority? What could you do with that information if you were a change agent?
Know how to communicate what we want to change and what we hope.
Okay, let's say let's say it's going to give you some information about how to communicate. Tell me more about how you would do that then.
So like if it's an innovator, you just be like, hey, I have this cool new idea that you might be interested in, but with a laggard, you go and select.
Okay, stop. I'm a change agent, and I'm the extension agent, and I help work at this farmer's market. I help get it started, and it's a place for people to sell produce and make some extra money. Right? Okay. I want them to start taking credit cards. Okay.
You have to think about the people you're working with. So if you're working with whatever.
There they are. That's Catherine. That's all of them. There they are.
Well, the book says most change agents market towards the innovators and the early adopters.
Those elite clients. That's who they spend time with. The innovators, remember, have no opinion leadership. Nobody cares what they do. They're probably way ahead of you. They've probably been doing this. Okay, does that make sense? They've been taking credit cards. Okay, and the advantage of the credit cards is then you can take SNAP benefit cards. In this case, this was the simulation that I've written with some faculty at Indiana University, and we were trying to get producers to adopt organic practice. So we're trying to convince them they should be organic certified. The innovators are probably already doing it, right? Now, so Susie says, if I have that information, I know who to talk to about what. Fair? Okay, so can you be a little more specific? The innovators, they have no opinion leadership. No one cares what they do because they're nuts. Okay, they're doing their own thing. Tomorrow they'll be trying to grow bananas in Stillwater. Who knows what they'll be doing?
Those are early adopters and the late majority.
Yes. Now, what Ryan said is, they'll tend to want to work with early adopters anyway because they're the ones that have access and interest with the change agents. And so that'll probably happen because they're the ones that you talk to all the time anyway. They have a lot of social status. What about the laggards?
They don't. I mean, innovation dies with skepticism, so you want to avoid that. And I feel like those last two are a little more skeptic, a little more hesitant.
So let's take Ted. Ted generally keeps to himself, participates in the farmer's market because the mail order sales of his dried mushrooms plummeted. He spends most of his time fishing, talking about fishing and watching other fishing programs. He's suspicious of the extension educator. He uses the shop and swap for all his information. Take either the credit card, I'm throwing at Susie, or this organic practice thing. Do I go to Ted and say, hey, I want you to start using credit cards? Or hey, I want you to start raising your mushrooms? No, because the only way he's going to do that is if he's forced to, or he'll be the last one to do it. So you're wasting your breath. Okay? What you want to do, again, if you can figure out who those early adopters are, okay, and we've made that list, or maybe early majority, maybe you're not sure. I mean, people don't have, this stamped on their forehead. But if I know that, that's who I'll go to. And then if you think about this S-curve, if I can get them to adopt, then it's going to take off without me and I go on to work on something else. Ted eventually will come along, but he'll come along because everyone else is doing it. But I'll waste my time if I spend my time on the laggards. And if I spend my time with the innovators as a change agent, people will think I'm just as nuts as they are. Okay? They have no opinion leadership. Nobody cares what they do. And so if I get them to adopt the credit cards, assuming that they haven't, although they probably have, it doesn't do me any good because no one looks at them and says, oh, I want to do what they're doing. So if we're going to find out who those early adopters are, we got something. Okay? Based on your homework, you say, oh my gosh, I completely blew those all completely. Okay, got some. Okay, if you can identify, if you can at least separate the innovators and the late majority, you're okay. Okay. The other ones, who knows where they might be. That late majority, not a lot of opinion leadership. That early majority and early adopters, they're ones, they have a lot of contact with those innovators. Questions? Okay. I may have mentioned this before, but I have a sister who's 14 years younger than I am. Okay. I have older brothers and sister and two younger sisters. On the way to church when I'm a youngster, my mom says to my brother David and Mary and me and said, there's going to be an addition to the family. And my sister Mary is there and my brother said, you mean Mary's pregnant? Mom said, no, I am. She's 40 years old, and so not uncommon in my community for that to happen, surprises. But I'm 14 years old and I have a little sister. And I remember things like my mom brings home baby, and she was really wanting to stay in the hospital longer, I think, because it was rest and relaxation. But brings home the baby, and so for like a week, she wears the same top. I said, Mom, what are you doing? Oh, well, breastfeeding. The baby needs to get kind of used to your smell, and you do things like that. And I remember saying, well, did you do that with all us kids? And she said, oh, no, I didn't breastfeed any of you kids. 5 other ones didn't. And so I was kind of intrigued with that, wondered why. And so at some point, probably not when I was 14, but maybe when I was 18, I asked Mom, how come you breastfed Karen, but none of us? Why was that? I mean, she's got from the research, she's got 2 or 3 ACT points advantage right there. Anyway. And she said at that time, that's not what you did. Okay? Breasts were seen more, mammalian protrusions were seen more as sexual and not as feeding babies. There had been a huge change where we decided that now we can make formula for babies, so why would we have babies drink breast milk? And then there was this huge shift the other way, where we had to convince mothers and families that breastfeeding was actually better than this formula. In third world countries, Nestle came under fire when I was a college student because they were trying to convince all third world countries to start buying their formula. And again, you have to buy it. Okay? In third world countries, you would mix this formula, dried powdered formula, with water, which was not safe to drink. Okay, it was contaminated. So basically you're giving babies contaminated formula when you've got mother's milk, which is pure and has everything it needs, but we've convinced them not to. Nestle was doing it because they can make more money selling baby formula. But it's an example of something that this is what it was, then we changed, and then we've come back to. Okay? It's not unlike the example that your author says as far as using chemicals, farmers that resisted chemicals, and then eventually it came back around to, well, maybe using chemicals in agriculture production isn't the most important thing, or something we might try and reduce. Okay, so similar in that way. Anything else on the categories? Great, it's wonderful if you know that this is what they are, but it's what you do with it, and that is, as a change agent, I look out among these people I'm trying to work with, and I'm trying to figure out who I should work with, because I can't work with all of them, and I'll do more harm than good if I work with innovators. And if I work with laggards, well, I'm just wasting my time. Okay? I have a handout for you on the end of tipping. Anyone work in food service where they're a waitstaff person and make tips?
Well, I used to.
You used to, but you're familiar with the idea? Okay. The rest of us go out to eat and trying to decide whether we're going to stiff our waiter or waitress or whether we're going to be generous or not. But there's a movement to try and end the practice of tipping. Okay? There's also a question about, well, who do you tip and who you don't tip? Okay? When you get your hair cut, do you tip your barber, or you do? Why? Because she does why doesn't she just charge more? The guy I'd go to, not anymore, well, I guess sometimes do, he owns the shop. Okay? So why would I pay him more than what he charged? You're not charging me enough, I want to give you more. I mean, I don't do that at Walmart. I don't say, oh, these peaches have to cost more than that. Here's an extra $1.
I feel like that's different though, like he owns the shop, because like if you go to like Great Clips or something like that, that's a like branch chain of like haircuts, so they don't get like
right.
full benefit.
Exactly. You'd say, I'm trying to help you out because you're just getting this wage. And it's the same in the restaurant. And so not very often do you go to the restaurant and the person that owns the restaurant is all that you would pay. And so we're gonna see a clip from 60 Minutes, but it's the founder of Shake Shack. Shake Shack is a gourmet hamburger place that there's one in Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, I know. They're not everywhere, but there's some different places. They haven't made it everywhere to Oklahoma. But they give you a little more expensive hamburger. They call it fast casual. But he's trying to end tipping, and he's going to explain why he's trying to end tipping, and I'm interested to know whether you're convinced at the end. It's about 12 minutes.
In the past couple of decades, chances are a restaurateur named Danny Meyer has had a big impact on how your meal went. Since he opened his first restaurant in 1985, the innovations in food, service, and hospitality he's pioneered have been so widely copied they've changed the way America dines out. Danny Meyer now runs 15 restaurants, and Shake Shack, the burger joint he opened in 2004, has become a global billion-dollar chain. But in his most daring innovation to date, Danny Meyer is eliminating tipping in his restaurants, a move which, if successful, may radically alter the way restaurants do business.
The first 5 minutes are going to be about him.
Continue in a moment.
That's for the Pfizer commercial of.
Thousands of people line up every day to eat Danny Meyer's food. Here at Citi Field, the home of the New York Mets, some fans come early just to get a taste of Shake Shack. When we were there, the wait was almost an hour long.
Have you been to your seat yet, or you just
No, we came straight in.
to beat the line.
You have to. It's the only way you get a burger.
Is it worth it?
It's very good.
Really?
Yeah. Would you like one?
Danny Meyer says Shake Shack burgers taste so good because he makes them with the same high-quality ingredients he uses in his expensive restaurants. But that still doesn't explain why people are willing to stand in those long lines.
It's burgers, it's fries, and it shakes. We haven't reinvented the wheel here.
We are sometimes as mystified as anybody as to what the magic of Shake Shack is. I think we know that this is fine casual. This is a new way of dining.
Fine casual.
Fine casual, which is marrying together the ethos and taste level of fine dining with the fast food experience.
So you don't call it fast food?
When did you ever go to Shake Shack and find the experience to be fast? This was such a historic, beautiful park.
We went with Danny Meyer to New York City's Madison Square Park, where he created the first Shake Shack in 2004.
The reason I haven't had a burger before from Shake Shack is because of the line.
Instead of simply asking yourself, is...
Back that up. That's the line
The reason I haven't
to
had
order.
a burger before from Shake Shack is because of the line.
Instead of simply asking yourself, is the burger so good that you would choose to wait in line, I think the question is, what else are they getting out of the experience? And I think what fast food hijacked was the notion that people actually want to be with people. Their whole promise was basically, we're going to get you out of here so quickly you'll never have to see a person. In fact, we're going to give you drive-through lines so you never have to get out of your car. And we're kind of doing the opposite of that.
I'm going to get a cheeseburger, a Shack burger.
Shack burger.
Shack burger, sorry. And a coffee milkshake and fries. There's something about the combination of the bun and the burger.
So if you think about it, a hamburger is basically two things. It's the bun and the meat. And what's great about this bun is that it doesn't bite you as you're eating it. It doesn't bite you? It doesn't bite your teeth. I think it's a mistake if the bun is too big and too hard.
His attention to detail
Okay, that doesn't have anything to do with diffusion, okay? It's just a little trivia about their burgers.
has made Meyer a leader in fast casual dining, or what he calls fine casual. Although not the largest, it is the fastest growing sector of the restaurant business. Meyer believes many consumers want good food delivered in less time and at less cost than at a full-service restaurant.
And I think what fine casual is doing, if you're willing to give up waiters and waitresses and bartenders and reservations and table costs and flowers, we're gonna give you about 80% of the quality that you would have gotten in a fine dining restaurant. We're gonna save you about 80% of the money you spend in a fine dining restaurant. We're gonna save you about 60% of the time.
Okay. So that's what he sees as, it's not that we're going to have the death of fast food, but he says what he thinks may more have the death of fine dining, that I'm going to give you 80% of the quality in 60% of the time for maybe about 20% of the cost, because I'm going to eliminate all those other people.
Fine dining is how Meyer started in the restaurant business more than 30 years ago. He opened his first restaurant, Union Square Cafe, in 1985, in what was then a seedy neighborhood in Lower Manhattan. Back then, people dined out less frequently, and expensive restaurants were often formal and intimidating. Danny Meyer had a different vision.
I said, let's create a restaurant where you can feel great if you're dining alone. So we created a bar for dining at a time when you never got 3-star food at a bar in New York City. That was the domain of coffee shops. I wanted to go to a restaurant where I could drink great wines by the glass. So I was just looking to break as many rules as I possibly could, but ultimately to create a restaurant that at the age of 27 would have been my favorite restaurant if only it existed.
Okay, we're still not there, but be looking for the problem that he's addressing.
Meyer has been fascinated with food since he was a child. Grew up in St. Louis, the son of an entrepreneur and an art gallery owner who loved entertaining and cooking.
Do you think about food all the time?
Constantly.
Have you always?
I think I have, for whatever reason, since I was a little kid. I go to the St. Louis Cardinal baseball games, and I was the guy that would get the whole hot dog, like everybody did. But I'd go to the relish station, and I'd put a little ketchup on this bite, a little mustard on this bite, a little onion here, a little pickle relish here, to see which I like better.
I don't know how to ask this, but I mean,
Were you a chubby kid if you're eating all the time?
I actually was a chubby kid by the time I got to be 12 years old, 12, 13, 14, and that's kind of how I always felt thereafter. And so it gives me great pleasure that today I can kind of eat as much as I want because I know how to exercise and I know how to balance it out. But it also probably put me in a position where I love seeing other people eat. Welcome here. I hope you've enjoyed your lunch.
Today, Meyer's company, Union Square Hospitality Group,
So fake.
oversees 15 different restaurants, all but one in New York. They operate upscale eateries, casual bistros, a cocktail lounge, and a neighborhood bakery.
How old's your baby?
What they all have in common is Danny Meyer's philosophy of hospitality, which he pioneered but has since become a standard for the industry.
Tell me if that's the best chocolate chip cookie you've ever had. Hospitality basically says that the most important business principle at work, way beyond that the food tastes great. And by the way, if the food doesn't taste great, you're never coming back here. But if the food tastes great, that alone does not assure that you will come back here. So what hospitality does is it adds the way we made you feel to how good the food tasted.
So the experience of dining out for you is the most important thing?
I think the experience of how you are made to feel is the most important thing.
The key, he says, is to hire people who are intuitive and empathetic. He has more than 2,000 employees, and he trains them to pick up on the customer's cues.
Everyone on earth is walking around life wearing an invisible sign that says, make me feel important. And your job is to understand the size of the font of this invisible sign and how brightly it's lit. So make me feel important by leaving me alone. Make me feel important by letting me tell you everything I know about food. So it's our job to read that sign and to deliver the experience that that person needs.
This is the reservation system?
Yes. Are there any folks here that I'm supposed to be saying hello to today? We have a regular right here.
In the restaurant business, profit margins are razor thin, and repeat customers are critical.
Thanks for being here today.
Meyer has made an art making his customers feel welcome, tracking their likes and dislikes.
I've also heard you say that you always identify the boss at the table. I didn't realize there was a boss at each table, but how do you do that?
Well, there's no question in my mind that at every single table there's somebody who's got the biggest agenda. If it's two people doing business, there's someone who's trying to sell something to somebody else. And I think that if you can figure that out early on in the meal and understand what is it going to take for the boss to leave happy, it could be make sure that someone else gets to pick the wine. You just got to pick up on those cues.
Meyer's most controversial innovation is also his riskiest.
Okay, so here we go.
He's trying to eliminate tipping to combat pay inequities between servers, whose tips have gone up as menu prices have increased, and those who work in the kitchen, who under most state laws can't share in gratuities.
Okay, so just told you what the problem was. Can you restate that? Or did you catch it? Try it again.
Somebody else. And I think that if you can figure that out early on,
Sorry, I went back too far.
and understand what is it going to take for the boss to leave happy. It could be make sure that someone else gets to pick the wine.
Not that.
You just got to pick up on those cues.
Meyer's most controversial innovation is also his riskiest. He's trying to eliminate tipping to combat pay inequities between servers, whose tips have gone up as menu prices have increased, and those who work in the kitchen, who under most state laws can't share in gratuities.
Okay, so why is that a problem, do you think, for him?
Because the cooks are doing all the work and the waiters are getting all the paid for it.
Yeah, that seems so. Has anyone in here been a cook? I haven't worked in restaurants, but I think that'd be very discouraging. It's kind of like if you're the wait staff and the food's crappy, I'm not going to get a very good tip. I can't control it, but I'm putting out this great product, and I'm probably not paid as much, and I'm certainly not rewarded. And so one solution is we pool tips, right? But he sees that maybe is not the best way to go.
So the cooks, dishwashers, they don't get any part of the tip?
They don't get any of it. And what I noticed after being a restaurateur for 30 years, is that the growing disparity between what you can make in the dining room where tipping exists and what you can make in the kitchen, the disparity had grown by 300%.
And so it's hard to have really good people in the kitchen. Okay.
Meyer has so far eliminated tipping in 9 of his restaurants. He's increased the base pay of both servers and kitchen staff, and in some restaurants gives waiters a share of the weekly revenue. He's raised menu prices significantly, on average nearly 25%. But when the bill comes, there's no line for leaving a tip.
I'll go back and see those prices again.
What you can make in the dining room where tipping exists and what you can make in the kitchen, the disparity had grown by 300%.
Meyer has so far eliminated tipping in 9 of his restaurants. He's increased the base pay of both servers and kitchen staff, and in some restaurants gives waiters a share of the weekly revenue. He's raised menu.
USC burger, $27. Now again, we're not in Ingles or Ripley, so expect things to be a little bit more expensive. So what he did is he raised prices.
Prices significantly, on average nearly 25%. But when the bill comes, there's no line for leaving a tip.
You call it hospitality included. You don't say no tip.
So by saying hospitality included, it's basically saying, you see that price that it costs to get the chicken? That includes everything. That includes not only the guy that bought the chicken and the guy that cooked the chicken, but it also includes the person who served it to you and how they made you feel.
So for the customer, in the end, is the bill the same?
The bill, by the time you get your bill, whatever shock you did or didn't feel when you saw the menu prices should completely dissipate, because you should say, that's exactly what it would have been if they hadn't had this in the system.
Plus, at the end of the meal, you don't have to deal with the hassle of figuring out what to tip.
That's absolutely true, and let's face it, the end of the meal tends to be when people have had more wine than the beginning of the meal, and sometimes people make honest mistakes.
There's not a lot of restaurants, though, who are following your lead.
That's absolutely true, and it kind of reminds me of in 1990 when I decided to eliminate smoking at Union Square Cafe.
That was long before the law, actually.
It was 12 years before it became law, and so for me, it's almost immaterial who's doing it besides us. What matters is that
Okay, so he's not a change agent. He said, I don't care if anybody else does it, this is what we're doing.
We're doing it. It could be that we're slightly ahead of our time, but we're in it to win this thing. Hi.
In December, Meyer reopened his first restaurant, Union Square Cafe, in a new location. It's another no-tipping restaurant.
This pinch point here is the issue.
Minutes before the first customers arrived, Meyer was still making final adjustments.
One more 4-top and then a 6-top there.
Determined to deliver a dining experience that would keep them coming back for more.
Yay! My mind doesn't shut up, and I'm constantly thinking about how could we do this better? How could we make this better? I don't want to ever open a restaurant that, if it closed, people just wouldn't care.
I will say, it's been now 24 hours since I had my first burger at Shake Shack and the coffee milkshake. I have been thinking about it more than I have thought about food in a long time.
So all you need to know about me after all these questions is that nothing in the last 24 hours makes me happier than hearing what you just said.
Last week, Shake Shack announced that it'll test a new concept with its latest restaurant opening in New York City this month. There'll be nobody taking orders or cash. Instead, customers will order and pay at touchscreen kiosks or from the Shake Shack mobile app.
Okay. Any thoughts?
I have some friends that are waiters or waitresses in Oklahoma, and if this is wrong, please correct me, but do they only get paid tips?
Yeah, they make $2.13. So
minimum
wage is $2.13 an hour
For servers.
for a server,
And
and then
then,
the rest is tips.
okay, and from what I've heard, like, I've had a friend that works an 8-hour shift and leaves with $6. Or, I mean, my math isn't quite right.
In tips?
Yes.
Okay,
So-
but then got $16 of wage from the establishment.
Right, so like how would that work here? And I know we're a college town, so that's probably skewed.
You don't think college students tip very well? Is that what you mean?
No.
Okay.
I mean, like for me, so my brother worked at Charlotte Hillies for like 3 years, and when he turned 21, they made him a bartender, and he would make $300 in tips a night.
Yeah, and that's the discrepancy that he's talking about.
But
is
when
it's
he was running food, he was making wage. He wasn't getting the tips.
right,
So there's a big difference.
right.
So when I went to tables in high school, and I made ungodly money for a high school student. But the reason why I made ungodly money is because it's all about like you're selling something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, I mean, you're selling wine, you're selling drinks, you're selling appetizers. Like the reason why that disparity there is because you're the face of the restaurant. You're trying to make the restaurant more money because you're selling the product, and you're giving it away. It's a lot more involved.
Would you argue that the wait staff could give up some of that extra money and could spread it around further?
That would be fair.
It wouldn't be fair to spread it out to other people?
I think
there's money
it goes-
that I made for.
Well, no, but I mean, it's because.
So then what's my incentive then to sell that?
Now what you heard is that we may have some profit sharing, meaning if the restaurant does really well this week, we share that with everybody.
So we tip share.
Right, that's one possibility. We throw all the tips together and do them out. But what he's suggesting, I want people to come in and this is what it is what I pay. When I buy a sack of feed from a chickens at Stillwater Mill, I don't then tip the guys that put the feed in my truck. I don't tip the girl who rang me up. It's $9.65 for a bag.
You also talked to a lot of waiters. It's also about that instant gratification of I did really well tonight.
Oh, we're not-
And I walked out with cash.
We're not asking wait staff what they want, right? We're not saying, hey, what do you want to do, Susie?
Well, I was just thinking, I kind of like the idea because, like, when I was a waitress and like we would tip share, I would always feel like somebody else who was doing less work was benefiting from me. But I kind of liked it. It's like, well, if you're a good worker and you're doing good hospitality, he's going to hire you. Like, he hires people who are good at hospitality and good at making people feel the way they do.
And if he knows they're good, they'll pay him more, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
I think a lot of businesses are going to like minimum wage pay too. So like my brother made $7.25 an hour running. He made at Crosscuts they gave like Buffalo Wild Wings does that too. Like they make $7.25 an hour. It's not $2.13, it's $7.25.
And then tips are on top of that. Yeah, this would be probably pay you all $12 an hour, and then there's no place to tip. You can't tip, or we don't want you to tip.
And he also said in some of his restaurants that they get partial revenue.
So that is the
Wild Wings does to their kitchen staff. So like at B-Dubs, you have to tip out your bartender obviously when you get food or when you get a drink. So as a server at the end of the night, you have to pay your bartender so much.
Oh, really?
But then they also, you don't realize they also calculate in a kitchen, which I think it's like 6%. So it'd literally be like $2 most nights, so it wasn't a big deal. But then if we had a really good night, so like game days and stuff like that, we push over, I think they said anywhere from like 13,000 to 22,000. The kitchen gets, like, that's their weekly bonus. They get
it gives some bonus. So
and they make $14 an hour.
yeah, so that would be the idea. Let me pay you a decent wage, and then if we're all doing well, then we're going to give you some on top. What do you think? So maybe this is the first time you've heard of this. What do you think will have to happen that 10 years from now nobody will be tipping anybody?
He's got to show what he's making in the difference in that. If he's starting this, he's got to take it.
But he doesn't. He said, I don't care if anybody else does it. Maybe we're ahead of our times, but maybe we're not. We're doing this because we think it's the right thing to do.
I think the early adopters will have to see it.
You would be the innovator in this case.
Yeah, the
Sure,
early adopters
absolutely.
will have to push it out more.
You're going to have to see if some others are going to jump on, and again, there's going to have to be a critical mass. But then when there is, if it gets to that critical mass of 20 or 25%, then you don't want to be the one left behind that you work for this restaurant, they're paying you $2, and at the end of the night you get $6 because nobody tips anymore. Because they'd say, I thought we quit doing that. And then the whole tipping thing has gotten crazy. If you stay in a hotel, do you tip the guy who makes your bed? Do you tip your newspaper boy? Do you it's who do you tip and who don't you tip? And what the possibility is there's just going to be, this is how much stuff costs. And in the case of a student that doesn't get stiffed, I don't know if you caught what he said. He said, at the end of the night, people have a bunch to drink. Maybe they make an honest mistake. What's he alluding to?
Some people will get so much.
Oh yeah, maybe more, but maybe somebody just
They don't even sign the ticket, so then you don't get in.
Well, there's two. I'll sign it, but it's possible that they didn't mean to stiff them, or their math wasn't as great. So yeah, sometimes people make mistakes in the waitstaff's favor, but other times it's I got a $2 tip when they meant to give me $20. And so he says, if we just say this is what it costs, and you're sober when you ordered, then there's no surprise when it comes on your credit card bill. And how did this happen?
I feel like they could also do I went to Europe this past summer, and they just include the tip. Like, you don't have to try and figure it out. Like, it's already included. So I feel like you could do that instead of raising the price. It's just include the tip.
Did you pay with a credit card ever?
Yeah.
Did they bring the credit card machine to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so the only place I've been in the United States, believe it or not, is the Pioneer Woman restaurant. And this is very European. They bring it to you. And when they do it, the first time it's like, you mean I've been giving you a credit card, you're going in a back room and doing who knows what for 10 minutes and then coming back? What did you buy in that 10 minutes, right? You say, I need that card doesn't need to be out of my hand or out of my eyesight. But we routinely do that, right?
Garden has it now. There's
that thing's there.
a table, and so you swipe your card there or insert it, and you never have to give it to a waiter.
Yeah.
Chili's does the same thing.
So that part, maybe European, but it's catching on, and so lots of people would expect, they'd say, I don't really want to give you my credit card. Can't you bring the machine to me?
And
Or
on that little machine, they have like a tip scale too. So like,
Aspen Coffee does that, where you swipe your card and like, oh, you want to do 10%, so like $2, and you just hook it.
Yeah, I want to give like 300%. That's what I want to do. I got so much money.
Work at shows, and they talk about when people leave a tip, with your card. If you leave $3 on your card or something, and you just add that, they say a percent of that has to go back to Joe's because they
you got to pay for the card.
The card, yeah. So then they said in reality, if you leave $3, you're only giving $1.30.
They'd say, please give me $3 of cash, right? Please.
Yeah, they just we'd take cash over it any day.
So Penny and I were first married, and we went to Thanksgiving in Friendswood, and her family, the day after Thanksgiving, they all go to the movies. And so I go and I volunteered to pick up, so Penny's dad, I'll get all the tickets. And so I volunteered to get popcorn and stuff, and it was $100 because every kid wanted to anyway, so it was a bunch. But the guy, I remember, he took a long time with my card, and I don't know, 2 weeks later, I'm checking something on my card, and somebody had bought an iPad for a couple $100. And all I could think was, there's only one time when that card had been out of my sight, and I'm convinced the guy, it was really rushed. Hey, our machine's down. Hey, I'll be right back. I'm convinced he took the numbers down, everything he needed, and then came back. But I was able to intercept it. I saw it. It was from Egghead Software. Before that iPad was shipped out, I called him and I said, I didn't order that. And they said, great. We stopped, and so somebody was expecting an iPad for Christmas or after Christmas and didn't get one, but they didn't pay for it. So. But just the security is of interest. I don't know if this is going to catch on. The problem I see it that he's trying to fix, though, is how to be equitable and pay for people. And it's hard to get good people as servers. It's hard to get good people as cleanup staff. Hard to get good people as cooks. But if I could pay them better, I would. And how can I do that without raising what you pay 25%? He thinks it's the same. The cost is the same.
Incentives are going to be really good, in retail, in benefits. Oh, if you have the most sales for most people, you help take a survey or something, you get this and this. So does that become a thing?
I think what he would hope to promote is more, we're all in this together, because otherwise I'm sweating in the kitchen, making $10 an hour, and you are out there busting your tail, but making twice or 3 times as much. And I'm saying, man, I'm working hard. I'm not spitting in the food,
I
right?
feel like that if they were more equal, like the wait staff and the cooks, they would feel like they're equal and they would make better food. And they would have
Maybe so. To me, it's that the cook should be paid twice as much as the person that just comes out and delivers it and fills my water. But I'm not going to.
So I'm saying, like, the reason why you don't go back to a restaurant 9 times out of 10 is if you have a bad
server.
Right?
I don't know.
But he said if the food isn't good, he said you're not going to come back. If it's bad food, I don't care how pretty. I mean,
someone's having a bad day. Like I always tip someone, even if they're terrible, because I'm like, what if they're having a bad day? Like, what if something is really.
Well, just one other comment, and that is it varies whether you're at Joe's Diner and it's a $6 hamburger, or it's somewhere else and it's an $18 hamburger, and we do a percentage. And it's like that person did the same work.
Why aren't you leave that alone, dude?
Do what?
For her.
Yeah.
Leave that
Brianna.
at home. Like, be
Put it on the
professional.
spot.
Leave that at home.
Well, that's what I do. That's what I do. I don't. Can't do it. Okay.
It depends. Depends what it.
Okay. Just dawned on me. I haven't posted a worksheet for Chapter 8, so let me do that just as soon as we get back. But Tuesday we'll start Chapter 8. Okay. Okay. See you Tuesday.